Welcome to this explainer. Today we're targeting literally the most important muscle in your entire body. And no, we are not talking about your biceps, your quads, or your core. We're talking about your brain. We are going to break down the hard science and the actual neurobiology of building unbreakable gym discipline. So if you want to know how to engineer consistency from the ground up, you are in the exact right place. Let's get into it.
Be honest with yourself for a second here. We have all been there, right? You set your alarm for 6 a.m., you lay out your gym clothes, you go to sleep feeling like an absolute champion. And then the alarm rings, and suddenly all that fire, it's just gone. You hit snooze, you skip the gym, and man, that guilt immediately sets in. Now, you might think you're just lazy or that you're missing some magical willpower gene that all those fitness influencers seem to have. But the truth? You're just relying on the wrong psychological fuel.
Which brings us to Section 1, the myth of motivation. Okay, let's just completely shatter a massive paradigm that's probably holding you back right now. It's this idea that you need to feel ready to act. Look, waiting for the feeling to work out is mathematically proven to be a recipe for failure. Just look at the stark difference here. Building your fitness routine on motivation is literally like building a house on sand. Motivation is an emotion. It comes from watching a super inspiring edit or listening to a killer track, and because it's an emotion, it's incredibly volatile. Discipline, on the other hand, that's a conscious decision. It is a system. It is sustained over time. A disciplined person acts completely independent of their mood. Discipline doesn't care if it's raining outside, if you're exhausted, or if your bed is just way too warm. It acts without desire. All right, moving into Section 2, your brain on the gym. To truly master this, we have got to look under the hood and see what's actually happening chemically when you train. Think of this as the chemical engine of your workouts. You always hear about endorphins, right? But notice the two real superstars here, dopamine and serotonin. Dopamine is your engine. It's the neurotransmitter of drive, of seeking, of effort. It is the exact chemical that pushes you to get off the couch and tackle a new personal record, and it spikes with novelty and challenge. Serotonin, on the flip side, is your braking and recovery system. It gives you that sense of calm, emotional stability, and deep satisfaction. It floods your system after the workout to help you recover. When you lack discipline, your dopamine levels basically flatline because of monotony or chronic stress, which makes it physically harder to just start. The trick is balancing both. Use fresh challenges to trigger that dopamine and proper rest to leverage the serotonin. Let's jump to Section 3, finding your inner drive. So how exactly do we trigger that dopamine reliably without depending on cheap external thrills? Well, we shift our focus to sports psychology. The absolutely crucial point here is the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic drive. Extrinsic motivation means you're working out for a medal, for likes on social media, or to look a certain way for a summer vacation. It is totally external. And the problem is, once you get the reward, or if the reward takes too long to show up, you just quit. Intrinsic motivation, though, that is the holy grail. It means you are training for the pure joy of the movement, the satisfaction of getting just 1% better, and the mastery of the skill itself. Research actually shows that athletes who are driven intrinsically persist through failure and resist burnout vastly better than those who are just chasing external trophies. Now, if you think this is all just motivational fluff, think again. Sports psychology is a hard science, and it boils down to the motivation of achievement formula. Look at ML right there in the center. That is your motivation to achieve. It equals your motive to achieve success, the MM, minus your motive to avoid failure, the MF, all multiplied by the probability and incentive of success. So what does this actually mean for you? It means if you're constantly paralyzed by the fear of looking silly at the gym, which is your motive to avoid failure, it mathematically subtracts from your drive. The most disciplined athletes out there actively seek out challenges. They focus entirely on the success of the process, rather than being scared of failing. Section 4, building unbreakable gym discipline. Let's see how all this science builds into an actionable framework you can start from absolute zero. Because look, you don't just wake up one day suddenly meditating an hour a morning and hitting the gym twice a day. Discipline is a skill, and it's acquired through microdisciplines. And the engine of microdiscipline is the habit loop. Step 1 is the trigger. You need an automatic cue, like literally putting your gym shoes right next to your bed. Step 2 is the action. This is the workout itself, which needs to have the lowest possible barrier to entry when you're first starting out. And Step 3 is the reward. That is the surge of serotonin and the visual satisfaction of crossing the day off your calendar. Master the micro, and I promise you, the macro takes care of itself. I absolutely love this quote from neuroscientist Andrew Huberman. It perfectly captures how you generate neurological momentum. He says, sometimes you have to put a stick on the ground, jump over it, and say, hooray. Think about it. If your goal is to read more, don't start with a whole chapter. Start with one single page. If your goal is to work out, start with 5 minutes of stretching. You literally have to make the task so ridiculously easy that you cannot fail. You are basically tricking your brain's dopamine reward system. You jump over that tiny stick, your brain registers a win, and suddenly you have got the neurochemical fuel to do just a little bit more tomorrow.
Up next is Section 5, the 10-minute workout hack. But let's get real for a second. Even with the absolute best habit loops in the world, there are going to be days when life hits you hard and your brain and body just feel completely drained. What do you do when you have absolutely zero energy? This is the ultimate fail-safe question. What happens on those dark days? You know, the days where the stress is high, the fatigue is deep, and your couch is basically screaming your name? This right here is exactly where amateur motivation dies and unbreakable discipline is forged.
Enter the 10-minute workout hack. On zero energy days, you completely abandon the idea of a grueling 1-hour session. Throw it out the window. Instead, you lower the bar. You commit to just 10 to 15 minutes of movement. We are talking a 5-minute light warm-up and 2 or 3 of the exercises you actually enjoy doing. And here's the real magic. After those 10 minutes, you reevaluate. If you feel that dopamine kicking in, awesome, you keep going. But if you still feel completely dead, you stop, you pack it up, and you rest without a single ounce of guilt. You protected the habit, you chose consistency over intensity, and you listened to your body. Guys, that is what true discipline looks like. Finally, Section 6, becoming the disciplined athlete. As we move into our cooldown phase here, we have to talk about the final psychological shift, because this is the secret to long-term permanent transformation. Discipline ultimately fails if you only view it as a chore you have to do. True, unbreakable discipline requires an identity shift. Every single time you lace up your shoes on a day you really don't want to, you are casting a vote for the person you want to become. You start saying, ugh, I need to go to the gym. And you start realizing, I am the type of person who takes care of my body. You act in complete alignment with your identity. It is no longer a forced obligation, it's simply who you are. So I want to leave you with this single, powerful question. As soon as this explainer ends, you've got a choice. You can click away to another distraction, or you can drop to the floor right now and do 5 push-ups. You can sit on the couch, or you can go fill up a glass of water. Ask yourself, what would a disciplined person do right now? The choice is entirely yours, the science is in his hands, so go build that muscle. Thanks so much for hanging out with us, and we'll catch you in the next one.